I was 19 when this happened. It was the kind of trip we all needed, just four close friends, tired of city noise, exams, and burnout. We picked a secluded forest trail known only to locals. No signal, no noise, just nature and our own thoughts. We set up camp in a wide clearing surrounded by tall pine trees. There wasn't a single soul around. We even joked that we were the only people in a 100-mile radius. The first night? Perfect. Bonfire, bad jokes, and burnt marshmallows. Slept like a baby. But on the second night, something changed. I woke up around 2 a.m. to pee. As I zipped out of my tent, I noticed something that made my stomach drop a little. There was another tent, maybe 20 to 30 feet away from ours. It was olive green, a bit older looking, and zipped up completely. We were all sure no one was around when we arrived. We didn't hear anyone come. No footsteps. No voices. Nothing. I whispered to my friend Arjun, who'd just woken up. "Dude, was that there before?" He squinted. "No way. I would have noticed. That's not ours." We stared at it for a while. There were no sounds. No light from inside. Just the shape of the tent standing completely still in the moonlight. Next morning, it was still there. Zipped shut. No sign of movement. We figured maybe a lone camper arrived really late and didn't want to disturb us. A bit creepy, but not impossible. But then things got weirder. The second night, I heard faint whispering. It wasn't any of us. We were all in the same tent, trying to sleep. When I asked the next day, everyone had heard it too. Still, we brush it off. Maybe the wind. Maybe a dream. Maybe we were letting our imaginations run wild. That evening, while gathering firewood, my friend Zara swore she saw someone standing just beside the mystery tent at sunset. A tall figure. When she blinked, it was gone. We decided to check the tent the next morning, just to say hi or maybe confirm someone was actually in there. But when we approached it, something strange happened. I can't explain it. My chest got tight, like something was warning me not to go near. And one of us would always stop and say, maybe let's not bother them, like we were under some kind of silent pressure to just leave it alone. Then on the last morning, it was gone. Completely vanished. No sign of packing. No footprints. No rustling. Just an empty patch of flattened grass. We packed our own tents and hiked back in silence. None of us really said what we were thinking, but the air felt heavy. At the ranger station, we reported what we saw. The forest officer asked, almost casually, was it a green tent with a red zipper? We all froze. Yeah, why? He leaned back and sighed. You're not the first to say that. Third group this month. He told us campers kept reporting the same thing. An uninvited tent showing up overnight, then vanishing. Some thought it was a prank. Others thought it was something supernatural. But here's the part that still gives me chills. A month later, Zara was scrolling Reddit. She sent us a link. A guy had posted anonymously, admitting how he used to live off-grid, camping deep inside forest zones. He'd sneak into campsites at night, pitch his own tent far enough to avoid suspicion, and steal food from others while they slept. He described the exact area we camped in, and even posted a blurry picture of his old tent. It was the same one. Turns out, he was homeless. After losing his job and family, he'd been hiding in forests across the state. The whispers? Probably him moving around at night. The warm firewood? Probably something he reignited after we slept. He never meant to scare anyone. But he did. He left fear, silence, and stories we tell forever. So no, it wasn't a ghost. It wasn't a shadow. But it was real. And that somehow made it even scarier. This happened to me in the fall of 2020. I had decided to take a solo backpacking trip, something I'd always wanted to do. I had all the gear, all the maps, and the confidence that comes with thinking you've done your homework. But by the time I realized I was in over my head, it was too late. I've been planning this solo hike for months. The plan was simple. Hike through the woods for a few days, camp under the stars, and immerse myself in the beauty of nature. No distractions, just me and the wilderness. I chose a relatively unknown trail in a national park in Northern California. It was remote, isolated, and far from the usual tourist spots. I like the idea of getting off the beaten path. No people, no noise. Just peace. I set out early in the morning, the sun still low in the sky, casting long shadows on the forest floor. The first day went perfectly. The trail was beautiful, untouched, and serene. I camped in a quiet clearing that night, the stars so bright they almost felt unreal. The next day, I pushed on, eager to see what lay ahead. But by the third day, things started to feel off. I woke up in my tent with an odd sense of unease. The night had been too quiet. Usually, you hear the sounds of animals, insects, or wind, but there was nothing. Just a stillness so thick it was suffocating. I shook it off, thinking it was just my mind playing tricks. I packed up my gear and set out on the trail again, following the well-worn path that was supposed to lead me back to civilization. But as I walked, something started to nag at me. The landscape felt different, like I was walking through a shadow of the trail I had followed the day before. The trees seemed to close in around me, their trunks gnarled and twisted, as if they were watching me. The trail, once clear and easy to follow, started to fade. My compass and maps kept telling me I was on the right path, but nothing looked familiar anymore. I stopped and pulled out my phone, hoping for a signal. Of course, there was nothing. I hadn't seen another hiker in days, and the isolation was starting to feel overwhelming. I decided to keep moving, hoping the trail would open up again. But then I noticed something strange. Footprints in the dirt, large, heavy footprints. They weren't animal tracks. They were too wide, too human. I stared at them for a moment, the hairs on the back of my neck standing up. I couldn't shake the feeling that someone had been walking in front of me. I tried to brush it off. It was just my mind running wild, right? But then I heard it. A crack of a branch behind me. Not a twig snapping underfoot, but a deliberate break, like someone was stepping on something heavy. I froze. I didn't want to turn around. I didn't want to believe that someone else was out there, someone who might be following me. But the forest felt too silent now, too unnervingly quiet. It was like the world was holding its breath. I forced myself to keep walking, but the feeling of being watched only grew stronger. The next few hours felt like a blur. I kept my eyes on the trail ahead, occasionally checking the shadows behind me. The footsteps, those same heavy footsteps, kept echoing in the distance, never too close, but always there. I was sure someone was following me. Every time I turned around, there was nothing. Eventually, I came to a fork in the trail. I could go left, toward the main trail that would lead me to the parking lot, or right, which seemed to veer off into uncharted territory. I chose the left path, hoping it would bring me out of this isolated part of the woods. But the footsteps didn't stop. They were closer now, and I knew they weren't my imagination. Someone was there stalking me. I broke into a sprint, my breath ragged as I pushed myself harder. The path became steeper, the trees growing thicker and more twisted, as if they were closing in on me. But no matter how fast I ran, the footsteps were always right behind me, just a few paces away. Then I saw it, a cabin tucked away in the trees. It looked abandoned, but it was shelter. I raced toward it, pounding on the door, hoping for help. No answer. I tried the door. It was unlocked. I barged in, heart hammering in my chest, and slammed the door behind me. I was breathing so hard I could barely think straight. My eyes darted around the room, but there was no one there. The place was old, falling apart. Dust and cobwebs hung in the corners, and the wooden floors creaked under my weight. I locked the door behind me and collapsed on the floor, trying to calm down. And that's when I saw it. On the wall, scratched deep into the wood, were markings. They were old but unmistakable, a series of tall, thin lines, almost like the scratches of an animal, but more deliberate. And in the middle, a symbol. A circle with lines branching out. I recognized it immediately. It was the same symbol I had seen carved into the trees when I first started the hike. I don't know how long I stayed in that cabin. It could have been hours, or maybe just minutes. But when I finally mustered the courage to leave, the footsteps had stopped. The forest felt empty, like whatever had been stalking me had vanished. When I got back to my car, I drove straight to the nearest town, not looking back. The whole time, I kept hearing that same sound in my head, the breaking of branches, the soft thuds of someone following me. When I finally made it home, I looked up the symbol online. I found nothing. No explanation. No connection to the area. But what I didn't find was what terrified me the most. That symbol. It wasn't just carved into the trees. It was also carved into the floorboards of that cabin. I still don't know who or what was following me through that forest. Was it someone deliberately trying to scare me? Or was there something darker at play? Something far more sinister than just a person? What if I wasn't just being followed? What if they were waiting for me to step into their trap?